You know what franchise I love? Mega Man. You know what franchise I'll simp for any day? Mega Man. And a bunch of others, but that's neither here nor there. No, Mega Man is one of those franchises that, no matter what they announce, I'll always get excited for. Be it a new sequel, or even a new spin-off, it'll garner my interest almost instantly. For one simple reason, my monkey brain loves sympathetic robots. Now you might be saying to yourself, Hedge, you handsome devil you. What do you mean, sympathetic robots? This isn't Nier Automata. I thought Mega Man was about a funny little robot that beats up other robots and steals their powers. And yeah, sure. But much like Sonic, Mega Man was completely different in the West and East. However, unlike Sonic, after the 90s, they stuck to their guns and didn't have a new incarnation of the same character every 3 years. I mean, technically. It's a long story. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, how different can a super fighting robot from the year 2000X be between the West and East? Oh, you funky little monkey. I'm gonna sit you down right here, right now, and tell you the grand, generation-spanning tale that is the downright depressing, robot war-filled, ego-terrorism-riddled story of the Mega Man franchise. No, I'm not kidding. Welcome to Earth, or Terra, if that's your cup of tea. The Earth of the Mega Man franchise is pretty much one-to-one ours in the 21st century, except with one major difference. Homies got them robotics way earlier than us. And at the forefront of this robotic revolution are two scientists, Thomas Light and Albert Wiley. These two men are responsible for the creation of the Robot Masters, a series of robots that exist to help humanity with tasks that require manual labor. Light and Wiley were old colleagues, but to the dismay of Wiley, Light's accomplishments were always overshadowing Wiley's creations. Light and Wiley together worked on the prototype of the Robot Masters series, a robot named Blues. Based on a preteen, Blues wasn't given a singular purpose that the other Robot Masters would have. However, Blues had a critical failure in his power circuit and would need to be replaced before long or else Blues would die. Wiley and Light argued whether or not replacing Blue's heart would change who he is. Blues overhears this and runs away from his fathers. Light, heartbroken that Blues would run away like that, fearing for his son's life, would use Blues' blueprints to create two new robots. Two assistant robots, Rock and Roll. Light would consider them his children, much like he did with Blues. Wiley and Light, using the now perfect designs of the Robot Masters, create the first series of 6 robots. All 6 of the Robot Masters were designed with specific purposes in mind, such as demolition and waste management. The Robot Masters would help humanity with tasks that would prove too difficult and even lethal for humans. Each Robot Master had human-like intelligence, their own personalities, and even fears and anxieties. However, none of them possessed true free will. Wiley, however, had different plans. Annoyed by Light constantly overshadowing him and not wanting to use the Robot Masters for their true potential, Wiley sneaks into Light's laboratories and reprograms the 6 Robot Masters, and overnight, Wiley attempts to take over the world. Hiding out in his base, Wiley would sit as the world crumbles and falls to his knees. With the world in turmoil and Light being blamed for his creation's destructive ways, it's his son Rock that speaks up. Rock, being programmed with the want to help people, he volunteers to fight his brothers and stop Dr. Wiley. Light initially refuses to let his son out there and fight his fight, but after pushing from Rock, Light agrees, but tells him to not kill his brothers if he can help it. Light reprograms Rock and outfits him with a new suit of armor, a new copy chip that allows him to use the powers of the other Robot Masters, and his own solar-powered weapon called the Mega Buster. Rock takes up the title of Mega Man and promises that he will bring his brothers home and clear his father's name. And that, my friends, is the humble origins of the super fighting robot Mega Man. Rock would spend the next however many years fighting under the alter ego of Mega Man. However, his gentle nature was always his greatest weakness. Rock believed in the good of everyone, no matter what they did. Each of the Robot Masters' personalities are given by IC chips that, as long as they're kept intact, the robot can be rebuilt and still be the same robot any number of times. Rock would make sure to keep the IC chips safe so they could be rebuilt, no matter if they were made by Dr. Light, Dr. Wiley, or any other scientist across the world. Wiley would constantly plead for forgiveness, and both Rock and Light would believe that one day, Wiley might actually change his destructive ways. After being defeated by Rock twice, Wiley claims to have had a change of heart and works together with Light to create Gamma, a giant brand new peacekeeping robot However, Wily was planning to use Gamma to take over the world. Gamma required special elements that were scattered among random planets in the universe. So, Light and Wily worked together to create 8 new robot masters that, when arriving to their respective planets, went evil and started hoarding the elements. Rock and his new robot dog, Rush, set out to collect the 8 elements and stop the 8 robot masters and bring them home. Over the course of his spacefaring adventure, however, Rock would come across a masked robot. Calling himself Brakeman, he would randomly attack Rock and disappear in a flash, sometimes helping Rock by giving him access to the robot master's domain, always followed by a whistle before appearing. After Rock stops the 8 corrupted robot masters and returns home, it turns out Wily has stolen Gamma and ran off to his newest base. Rock and Rush set off to stop Wily, and one more encounter with Brakeman before arriving at Wily's castle. Rock destroys Gamma, and for the 3rd time in a row, Wily begs on his knees for forgiveness. The explosion of Gamma, however, has started destroying the castle. Rock is almost crushed by falling debris, and Wily seemingly dies. Rock is saved by Brakeman and returned to Light Labs, where Light recognizes the masked figure's signature whistle. Light recognizes Brakeman to be Blues and is elated to see Rock safe and to know that Blues is out there somewhere. Blues takes up the name of Proto Man after this adventure, showing up from time to time to test his younger brother and help him out when the situation demands it. And so, the story of Rock as Mega Man would continue. Wily would return with a new plan, blackmailing other scientists, creating an alter ego, or just plain old trying to take over the world. Wily would, however, eventually create his own robot master like Rock, a robot named Bass, and his own robot dog, Treble. Bass sees himself as the Doctor's greatest creation and exists to prove himself greater than the others. Bass and Rock would often team up when the situation demanded for it. However, Bass would always be looking to defeat his rival once and for all. And that's the story of classic Mega Man. So far. The classic Mega Man games are pretty cut and dry, lighthearted stories. However, in the background, and implied in some spin-off games, Dr. Light would start working on his next creation. A robot with true self-awareness and the ability to make his own choices. A robot with the X factor? The X standing for limitless potential. And this, he named his new creation, X. Wily, not looking to be outdone, would start in secret working on his own robot, Zero. Dr. Light, after mysterious computer virus from space made robots rebellious, made sure X couldn't be infected with a virus that would tamper with his reasoning. Wily, however, implanted his new creation with a special virus that would make any and all robots go berserk and rebel. Zero, much like Bass, also would refuse to listen to Wily. Wily sealed Zero away due to flaws in his programming. Both Dr. Wily and Dr. Light would pass away before the creations were fully activated. Before his death, however, Dr. Light created armor sets for his new creation. Not knowing what kind of Earth he would be introduced to, he wanted his creation to be ready for anything. However, fearing that this armor could be used for nefarious purposes, he locked away the pieces of armor and hid them among the world. X would be sealed off in his own capsule, going through 30 years of simulations to test X's morality and learning. Dr. Light himself, before his death, uploads his consciousness to a database and lives on as a digital consciousness in the pods of armor spread across the world to make sure that nobody but X or his companions are able to access the weaponry and to keep an eye out on his son X. X is sealed off and in the year 21XX is found by the archaeologist Dr. Kane. With no concrete answer as to what happens to Rock and the others, the fate of the Robot Masters of the classic series are left up in the air. Theories surrounding the events range from that Rock and Roll were simply deactivated and put in the Robot Museum, or that Zero awoke early and killed the cast of classic Mega Man. There is an official outline for what happens between the classic and X series, and the Zero killing everyone theory wasn't what happened. This has yet to be revealed as of 2022, and I doubt it ever will. Personally, however, I headcanon that Blues, Rock, Roll, and the entirety of Light Laboratories had themselves digitized and lived on in cyberspace alongside Dr. Light. I personally don't like the idea that Rock would be put in a robot museum after saving the world countless times, but hey, you know, that's just fanon. So anyway, remember when I said that the world of Mega Man would get depressing? Well, hold on to your ass, because we just had a 100-year time skip, and the world's first sentient robot is a pacifist that is forced by himself to fight against the new threat against the world, one that he himself had a hand in creating. 100 years have passed. It is now this 22nd century, and all traces of Rock's fight for justice have become stuff of legends. The archaeologist Dr. Kane finds a sealed-off capsule in a dig site. Inside of this capsule is the sleeping X and all of his schematics. Unlike Dr. Wily and Dr. Light, Dr. Kane isn't a scientist. He has no idea what he's looking at and only understood that everything inside of X was miles ahead of the technology currently available. X is awoken by Dr. Kane, and together, using the schematics left by Dr. Light, X is used as the base for a brand new series of robots. Completely sentient and self-aware, these new creations were called Reploids, based around the words replica and android. It was a brand new era of peace, humans and Reploids living side by side. However, some of these Reploids would rebel against the humans due to a mysterious virus. These Reploids, known as Mavericks, would lead to the creation of the Maverick Hunters, an organization created by Dr. Kane to stop these attacks on humanity. The Reploid created by Dr. Kane, Sigma, was the leader of the Maverick Hunters. However, upon fighting the Berserk Zero, Sigma is infected with the Maverick virus, and during his fight with Zero, Zero is incapacitated and, after being brought to Dr. Kane, joins the Maverick Hunters, having completely forgotten about his previous actions. X, a pacifist at heart, is heartbroken at the sight of the Maverick attacks, feeling a sense of responsibility for being the reason the Reploids were created in the first place, and when Sigma starts rebelling and turning Maverick, taking along with him 8 Maverick Hunters turned Maverick, X joins the Maverick Hunters, and on his first mission out, he's intercepted by Vile, another Maverick Hunter gone Maverick. X, however, is saved by Zero, who tells X that while he can see great potential in X, he's not ready yet to take on Mavericks like Vile, and tells him to become stronger. During Sigma's uprising against humanity, people start talking and hoping for the return of the legendary Mega Man, a mysterious legend from a century ago, a robot who possessed of a human-like soul who fought for humanity and robot alike. Nobody is aware of X's true heritage. Not even X is aware of this. X's first interaction with his history comes in the form of the capsule pods left and scattered around the world by Dr. Light, housing a digital version of his consciousness. X finally gets to meet his father, who laments that he never wanted his life for X. Light grants X access to the armor pieces, which helped X deal with the Maverick outbreak. Using the armor granted by his father, X slowly but surely took up the mantle his brother left him. X took up the title of Mega Man and fought for a peaceful future. In the back of his mind, however, X longed for a way to stop the fighting. Throughout it all, X, much like his brother Rock, stayed a pacifist, always looking for different ways of ending the fighting without more bloodshed. After defeating the 8 Mavericks, Zero and X storm Sigma's hideout. X and Zero, inside of the Flying Fortress, however, are attacked once more by Vile. Zero takes on Vile on his own, but Zero is gravely damaged and locked away by Vile's new ride armor. X attempts to take on Vile, but is however once again defeated. Zero mustered the last of his strength and broke free of Vile's cage. Overcharging a Z-Buster, Zero manages to destroy Vile's ride armor, gravely wounding himself in the process. Vile taunts X and Zero, and X suddenly gains a boost in power and manages to take down Vile. Zero, with the last of his strength, congratulates X, and if the player didn't collect the weapon upgrade, Zero gives X his Z-Buster. Zero, however, passed away, leaving the fate of the world on X's shoulders. X storms the Flying Fortress and defeats rebuilt versions of the 8 Mavericks he destroyed, ultimately reaching Sigma. X finally defeats Sigma, who wonders why X chose to fight for humanity and not help Sigma. X leaves the destroyed Maverick as the fortress starts blowing up. X looks on at the crashing fortress and wonders if the sacrifices were worth it, if he's no better than the Mavericks he destroys, if the fighting would ever truly end. For now, however, peace has returned to the world, but for how long? And that is how the young X took up the title of Mega Man. Though, outside of the English localization, there is only one person to call X by the name of Mega Man. After the classic series, Mega Man became more of a title or a badge of honor, a legendary hero that fought for peace and justice. Not all the Mega Men that came after Rock would really refer to themselves as Mega Man. So, X spends years fighting against the Maverick Uprising. Zero would eventually rejoin him after the X-Hunters, led by a Maverick, weirdly similar to a certain evil scientist. X and Zero would lead the Maverick Hunters. Their quest for peace was never-ending. Betrayal and heartbreak would happen to our heroes. However, eventually, X and Zero's heritage would catch up to them. Sigma would constantly come back. Having turned into a virus himself, Sigma degrades over the years of being destroyed and brought back. Eventually, Sigma would find what is implied to be Dr. Wily, who tells him of Zero's origin. Sigma plans to use the Sigma virus to awaken Zero back to his original Maverick self. However, the spread of the Sigma virus proves too little to affect Zero. Sigma plans to crash the space station Eurasia into the Earth, merging the virus on board with the Sigma virus. The Maverick Hunters quickly devised a plan to stop the Eurasia from crashing into Earth, requiring 8 parts, 4 for an old cannon and a spaceship each. However, the rampant Sigma virus had started affecting the Reploids that were around these parts. X and Zero were forced to once again take down Mavericks for the sake of the world. The cannon slowed down the descent of the Eurasia, however, it was still on crash course with the Earth. Zero pilots a space shuttle and successfully destroys the space station. Zero comes back down in an escape pod, however, the debris of the space station crashes into Earth, creating the Zero space and spreading pollution everywhere. X and Zero rush into the Zero space to stop Sigma. Zero's power starts rising faster than ever before, and en route to Sigma, X becomes concerned about Zero. X pleads with Zero to go back to base before something happens to him, but Zero refuses. The two start fighting and come to a standstill. X and Zero lie exhausted on the floor. Sigma tries to take the opportunity to destroy X, but Zero protects X and collapses on the floor. Sigma leaves the two to recover from their fight, and together they head off to fight Sigma at the heart of Zero space. Sigma, as a last-ditch effort, self-destructs his unfinished body, and in the blast destroys most of Zero's body. X picks up Zero's body, and begs for him not to die. Sigma's head shoots another energy blast right through X and Zero's torsos. Zero shoots one final blast, seemingly destroying Sigma. Zero laments on his actions, images of his creation and his life flashing by. Zero, with his death, knows that peace can finally come. Zero tells his partner goodbye and fades away. X lies unconscious on the floor, where the digital manifestation of Dr. Light appears and tells X to rest. X is rebuilt and returned to the Maverick Hunters. Weeks pass by, and X, now holding the Z-Saber, is leading a squadron of new hunters to a Maverick outbreak, noting that together with his partner's weapon, he will be able to take on any foe. A wiser and more sharpened X lives on to fight for everlasting peace once more, with his partner's final blessings by his side. So anyway, 3 weeks later, Zero shows up again, having repaired himself off screen. Yeah, so X5 was supposed to be the final X game and would have led into the next spin-off series, but clearly that didn't happen, so oops, well, whatever. X and Zero continued fighting for humanity, however, eventually it got too much for X. X retired from Maverick hunting and started working towards a peaceful solution on dealing with the Maverick threat. Zero continued fighting with the Maverick Hunters and eventually met a young Reploid by the name of Axel. Taking up the mentor role for Axel, Axel was brash but eventually joined the Maverick Hunters. X would eventually return to the Maverick Hunters and continue working side by side with Zero and Axel. And that's where the Mega Man X story ends, for now. X8 ended on a cliffhanger with a comatose Axel, so X9 is probably happening someday, hopefully, but this isn't the end of the adventures of X and Zero. Sometime after the events of X8, Zero goes into stasis. Wanting to find a cure for the Maverick virus, he allows himself to be locked up to find a cure, and eventually, an antibody that is able to remove the Maverick virus and more importantly, Sigma's lasting effects on Reploids is created. And, after years of fighting, a semblance of peace finally returned. In the aftermath of the Maverick Wars, X created a new organization called Neo Arcadia, providing support for the survivors and refugees from the war. X spent time helping Reploid and human alike, gaining a reputation as a savior and leader figure among the government and their survivors. However, as if history really just wanted to repeat itself, a brand new evil scientist showed up. Dr. Weil was part of the original team who created the Mother Elf, and wanted to use the Mother Elf to control all Reploids, using Zero's empty body to create a brand new Reploid called Omega that would act as a beacon for the Mother Elf to control all Reploids so they can never hurt humans again. X naturally opposes Dr. Weil's ideology. Wanting Reploids and humans to live in coexistence, Dr. Weil worked in secret to take control of the Mother Elf, creating 2 clones of her called Baby Elves. The Baby Elves would take control of Reploids and force them to fight. More and more people would see the fighting and would rally behind Weil to control all Reploids. X and the new Maverick Hunters put Zero's soul in a new copy body to help them fight against Dr. Weil and his Reploids. The next 4 years of their lives were the most bloody the world had ever seen. 90% of all Reploids and 60% of all humanity were lost in the Elf Wars. Zero and X managed to turn the tide of battle And while, now more robot than human, used the Reploid Omega as a final assault on X and the others, Zero and X managed to defeat Omega and finally put an end to the war that had cost so many their lives. Dr. Weil and Omega are put on trial by Neo Arcadia, and after consideration by a council of 8 Reploids alongside X, Dr. Weil was banished to roam the wasteland that now covered most, if not all, of the Earth. Omega, however, was to be sealed within a space station called the Forbidden Ark that was orbiting the Earth. With the Elf Wars behind them, Zero, however, feared that his very presence would cause history to repeat itself and willingly returned to stasis. X, not wanting to see his partner go for good, was encouraged by Zero before being sealed that this was the right way. X would go on to create a city with the same name as his governing body, Neo Arcadia, creating peace and stability for the remaining population of Reploids and humans. X would lead this new city for as long as possible, until he disappeared mysteriously. The Earth has been damaged seemingly beyond repair. Most of the Reploids and humanity have died, and the survivors of the Elf Wars eventually forgot about the Elf Wars. Any and all information on the wars was spread among the world, not to be found by anybody. With X's disappearance, however, a young scientist by the name of Shiel created a duplicate based on X, who would act as an interim leader. At the same time, using the original X's DNA, the 4 Guardians were created. 4 elite soldiers that acted as military commanders to help Reploids and humanity rebuild and restore the world now damaged by years of war. However, Copy X's main concern was taking care of humanity, forcing the Reploids to become nothing but workforce members for the humans and were treated as second-class citizens. Eventually, the city would run into a problem with its energy consumption, and Copy X, focused solely on humanity, forced the Reploids in the city to live without energy so humans could have more. More and more Reploids were being marked as maverick and sent to their death. Any and all uprising or rebellions were quickly snuffed out. Shiel, struck with the guilt that her creation had brought on Neo Arcadia, helped hunted Reploids by sneaking them outside of the city and establishing a rebellion with the various Reploids she rescued. The 4 Guardians caught wind of the Resistance, and to keep humanity safe from the now marked Reploids, fought against the Resistance. Shiel would constantly try to figure out a way to end the fighting peacefully, focusing on creating a brand new energy source for the world, so that the Reploids could return to Neo Arcadia and live proper lives. However, with the onslaught of Neo Arcadia's forces, the Resistance wasn't left with a lot of options but to fight back. Eventually, to give them a chance to properly fight back, Shiel and the Resistance start actively looking for the body of Zero, and 100 years after the Mega Man X series, Zero was reactivated. And that's what happened between the X and Zero series. Between you and me, if they ever decided to adapt the Elf Wars into another spin-off, I wouldn't complain. Those 4 years sound brutal and perfect for like a Muso spin-off or something, but you know, time will tell on that one. Also, as a side note, the last issue of the Archie comics has a page dedicated to the Elf Wars, showing X and Axel in new bodies more akin to the Reploids that run around post Mega Man X. It also shows Dr. Light as a cyber elf, which personally I really like the idea of. Hopefully that'll get expanded on someday if those comics ever get off hiatus. Anyway, 100 years have passed, and X is nowhere to be found. It's now time for a new Mega Man to rise to the occasion and fight for the Reploid Resistance. 100 years have passed, ever since the legendary Reploids X and Zero destroyed the Maverick threat and brought an era of peace. Zero is found in an underground laboratory by the human scientist Shiel and the Reploid Resistance. Shiel awakens Zero as the forces of Neo Arcadia are picking off members of the Resistance one by one. Shiel uses a cyber elf to awaken Zero from his stasis, and Zero springs to life. He protects Shiel from the oncoming Reploids and escorts Shiel to safety. They're ambushed by a Golem-type Reploid, and it takes Shiel. Zero tries to fight off the Golem, but his Buster Shot is barely doing damage to the Reploid. Just then, a mysterious figure appears from a nearby PC and gives Zero his Z-Saber. Zero destroys the Golem and is taken by Shiel to the Resistance base. Zero, dealing with temporary amnesia from his awakening, is told by Shiel what happened ever since he was sealed off. Shiel pleads with Zero to help the Resistance by fighting off the forces of Neo Arcadia and create a future where Reploids and humans can live together. Zero helps the Resistance with various missions, and eventually runs into the 4 Guardians. Zero manages to fight them back and force them to retreat to Neo Arcadia. Eventually, Zero learns of the Reploid in charge of Neo Arcadia, a copy of his partner X created by Chiel as a stand-in for the original X, who disappeared some time ago. Zero plans on destroying the false copy by going directly to Neo Arcadia. The mysterious cyber elf that handed Zero his Seas Saber reappears and apologizes for taking so long to hack into the teleporter of Neo Arcadia. The cyber elf begs Zero to destroy his copy and disappears. Chiel stands in disbelief at what the cyber elf said. Zero, however, is focused on the mission and teleports to Neo Arcadia. Zero battles through the various forces on Neo Arcadia, and after a rematch with the 4 Guardians, which left them with one less Guardian due to a self-destruct attempt to kill Zero, Copy X appears before them, and tells them to back off as they are no match for Zero. Copy X believes he's created the perfect utopia for humanity, telling Zero that he and the original X could have never created this themselves. Zero and the Copy X fight. Zero mocks the Copy X and tells him that he remembers that the original X wasn't a weakling like the Copy is. Copy X launches one final assault on Zero and is defeated once and for all by Zero. Copy X starts a self-destruction sequence of the entire area, and Zero leaves Neo Arcadia. Zero is left in the desert. Cyber X Elf tells Zero that he's been fighting Mavericks alone for the past 100 years, and eventually didn't care about fighting anymore. X pleads with Zero to let him rest in peace for a while, and that he leaves the world in his hands. Zero accepts his partner's request. He reassures X that he'll continue fighting, no matter what. And so, Zero's quest for justice in the world continued. He fought against the forces of Neo Arcadia on his own for a year, eventually rejoining the Resistance after being rescued by Harpuya. Zero is forced to fight against the new leader of the Resistance, El Piso, who goes crazy with power and uses the newly awakened baby elves to destroy X's body and release the mother elf. After saving humanity from the megalomaniac El Piso, Zero stays with the Resistance and starts looking for ways to bring back the mother elf and baby elves, who now run around the world unaccounted for. 2 months pass, Zero is confronted with his own past once more. Dr. Whale, who was banished to roam the ruined Earth after causing the Elf Wars, has returned, and is running Neo Arcadia behind the scenes using a copy of Copy X. Dr. Whale once more plans to use the Mother Elf and the Omega Reploid to control all Reploids in the world. Zero is forced to destroy his original body in the ruins of the laboratory where he was found by Chiel and the Resistance. Whale escapes, Omega is destroyed, and the Mother Elf's curse is lifted. She brings back Zero to the Resistance. X reassures Zero that while Omega might have been his original body, Zero's heart and soul are his and his alone. X doesn't have much energy left and asks Zero to take care of the world in his place once more. X fades away, placing his trust in his partner. Zero awakens in the Resistance base greeted by his friends. The Mother Elf flies away free to do as she pleases. Chiel assures Zero that no matter what body he is in, he'll always be Zero. Zero thanks her, and the two look on into the sunset. Dr. Wile's iron-fisted rule of Neo Arcadia causes citywide panic, and slowly but surely, humans start trying to run away from the city, running away to the settlement at Area Zero, the original impact point of Eurasia back in Mega Man X5. A still-working environment control system from the space station had terraformed the surrounding area back into a livable habitat, having been left alone and locked away since the original incident back in 21XX. Dr. Wile indiscriminately destroys both human and Reploid. Anybody who dares go against this rule will be deleted. Sometime after the Omega incident, Zero and the Resistance help a caravan of escaping humans being attacked by Neo Arcadia's forces. Chiel and Zero learn of Area Zero and the anti-Reploid human settlement. Zero and the Resistance being blamed for the reason that Neo Arcadia fell after Zero destroyed X and left a power vacuum. Chiel is upset by this, but Zero couldn't care less. Dr. Wile, however, plans to destroy Area Zero and all remnants of nature outside of Neo Arcadia by using a space station Ragnarok. Zero defeats Wile's forces and protects Area Zero and the humans living in it from an assault by Whale. Kraft, a Reploid soldier and leader of the group in charge of Project Ragnarok, uses the space station to launch an orbital strike on Neo Arcadia, going against Wile's wishes, wanting to destroy Dr. Wile in the explosion. Chiel immediately orders the Resistance members to go out and evacuate as many people as possible. A shot is fired at Neo Arcadia, and while people are saved, an estimated 20 million of Reploids and humans combined were lost in the impact. Zero destroys Kraft, however, Dr. Wile survives the attack and launches another attack at the world. Planning to crash the space station into the Earth, Zero heads back onto the Ragnarok to take out Dr. Wile once and for all. Dr. Wild fuses himself with Ragnarok's core and attempts to destroy Zero. Zero destroys Dr. Wild, who self-destructs to take down Zero with him. Ragnarok is destroyed and its parts are burning up in the atmosphere. However, Zero is nowhere to be found. Shiel runs towards the settlement and tells them that she knows that somewhere, Zero is still alive looking over them. Shiel looks on at the night sky, filled with the fallen debris of Ragnarok resembling falling stars, and promises Zero they'll use this opportunity to create a peaceful future for both humans and Reploids. And so the Zero series ends. This is the only spin-off in the main Mega Man series that gets an actual ending. While Zero is never called a Mega Man during his run in this series, I would consider Zero a Mega Man no matter what. Compared to both X and Rock, Zero is more of an anti-hero. Zero fought for what he believed in and didn't care about who stood in his way. The Zero series is also a complete inverse of the previous stories. Zero fights mainly for Reploids who've been judged as mavericks by the imitation of his partner, whereas both X and Rock fought for humanity against robots gone evil. The Zero series also having an actual ending to it is quite nice, as Zero presumably gets to live on in cyberspace after his demise in Zero 4, along with X, finally getting some much needed rest after decades of fighting against mavericks, and honestly, I think that's really special. So anyway, Weil is in debt and his literal rage allowed him to fuse with the pieces of Ragnarok. These pieces of Ragnarok will be discovered by a man by the name of Albert, who would use the material to create a brand new creation. Aiming to find a way to merge Reploid and human together for further evolution, Albert creates Biometal Model W and locks it to his genetic code. And as part of his plan, forces any and all survivors of Maverick attacks to be implemented with his blood. Albert starts his promptly named Game of Destiny and creates two sibling Reploids, Prometheus and Pandora. Infused with Model W and forced against their will to do his bidding, the siblings would find matches for the biometals Albert created and bring them the Model Ws to fight and awaken the giant Model W fragments. In the centuries following Zero, many lives were lost in the various Maverick attacks and fights between the Mega Men, all being sacrificed for Model W. During the research into Model W, Albert meets Thomas and Mikhail, and eventually become the three founding leaders of the major governing body, Legion. Area Zero continues to flourish for the next 200 years, eventually becoming Syncville. A new law is passed by Legion. All Reploids must have a lifespan from the moment they are activated, and humans must undergo surgery to have cybernetics implanted. And eventually, over the years, humans and Reploids become so indiscernible from each other that terms like Reploid disappear, everybody falling on the monkier of human. Albert uses this law to implement people he deemed worthy with his blood, to further fuel his Game of Destiny and create potential Mega Man. Shiel starts a new group dedicated to stopping Mavericks, the Guardians, and finds a fragment of Model W, it acting as a source of a recent Maverick outbreak. Taking it in for research, it would cause problems with various Reploids around her, and eventually would corrupt one of the Resistance Reploids, Serpent. Serpent becomes obsessed with Model W and destroys the Resistance unit to claim the biometal. Shiel survives the encounter and uses the data from Model W to create her own biometals. Model X, Z, H, L, F, and P are created, each housing a soul of legendary Reploids. She seals Model W in Syncville and locks it behind 6 passwords. She removes the memories of the biometals after their creation and hides them away. The Game of Destiny is temporarily put on hold as Shiel, sealing the Model W fragment and creating the 6 biometals, changes it dramatically. A Reploid known as Girouette, imbued with Albert's blood, is able to resonate with Model Z, and is ordered by Shiel to help any and all survivors of Maverick outbreaks. He starts the company Giro Deliveries as a front to help the Guardians and protect potential matches for biometals by housing orphans who's lost their parents in Maverick attacks. It's unknown how long Giro had been housing orphans, but considering the 200 years between Zero and ZX, it can be assumed he's been doing it for a long while. Shiel disappears and Prairie, originally Alouette, of the Zero series, becomes the new leader of the Guardians in her absence. Serpent, during all of this, uses Shiel's energy system to fix the energy crisis and is seen as a hero for stopping various Maverick attacks. Serpent creates the company Serpent Inc., using ancient technology to bring supplies to the people of Zinkville. He is approached by two of Albert's henchmen, Prometheus and Pandora, two holders of the power of Model W, and tells Serpent of Albert's game of destiny, a plan to put the various holders of the biometals, known as Mega Man, against each other and let the last one standing reign as Mega Man King. Serpent starts staging Maverick attacks to fuel the awakening of Model W by forcing victims of Maverick attacks to become cyber elves and be assimilated into Model W. During this time, Serpent unearths Model H, L, F, and P and puts them in pseudoroids to continue to feed the Model W core. 10 years before the events of Mega Man ZX, a Maverick raid on an amusement park in Zinkville is the cause of the death of the mother of siblings Vent and Ale. Vent and Ale are rescued in time by Jiro using Model Z. Unaware of his history as a Mega Man, they are taken in by Jiro and work with him in Jiro deliveries. They're eventually given a dose of Albert's blood after the attacks, and unbeknownst to them, become biomatches to Model X. So even with a bittersweet ending like the one in Mega Man 04, where Zero and X are finally allowed to rest for a while and everything seems hopeful, some crazy scientist just keeps coming along and deciding they've had enough of the state of the world, and somehow, every time one of these dudes come along, they have a weirdly similar name to Dr. Wily. Dr. Weil and Albert. Honestly, if it turned out there was some actual deity in charge of the Earth in Mega Man, and they found some sick pleasure in making people suffer by forcing history to repeat itself constantly, I wouldn't be surprised. But anyway, 200 years have passed, and the torch is sorta being passed to a new generation of Mega Man. The ZX series allows you to pick between a male and female character, so for the sake of consistency, we'll just pretend both are around. 200 years after the events of Mega Man 04, the world has started recovering from the centuries of continued war. Humans and Reploid live alongside each other in harmony. Both human and Reploid are no longer discernible from each other. The siblings, Vent and Ale, were tasked alongside their boss, Jiro, to deliver a dangerous package by the leader of the Guardians. On their way to the delivery site, the three are attacked by Mavericks who are after the package. Vent and Ale are sent careening down into the forest below and meet up with the leader of the Guardians, Prieri. They're ambushed by another robot, and the package starts talking to the siblings. The two transform thanks to the power of the biometal and become Mega Man Model X. The two fight off the Mavericks and secure the safety of the biometal and the Guardians. Vent and Ale eventually find out that Jiro is the biomatch from Model Z, and he too is a Mega Man. Wanting to help keep people safe from Maverick attacks, the two are inducted into the Guardians officially by Jiro and Prieri. Immediately upon receiving a Maverick alert, the siblings head out to fight back. Jiro attempts to stop them but gives up and helps them with the outbreak. Jiro is intercepted by Serpent, Prometheus, and Pandora, who force Jiro to fight against the siblings against his will. The duo Mega Man are forced to fight their father figure and watch as he falls to the floor. The two are mocked by Serpent, who tells Prometheus and Pandora to take the password data from Model X and Z. Vent and Ale try to fight back but have their shots reflected by Prometheus. They're forced to de-transform and are surrounded by the Maverick forces as Serpent and the twins transport out. Jiro, with the last of his strength, asks Model C to protect Vent and Ale. He de-transforms and turns into a cyber elf, slowly flying away from the siblings. Vent and Ale, angry at their own lack of strength to protect those they care about, are told by Model X and Z that by combining the strength of two biometals, they'll be able to transform once more. Vent and Ale, wanting to honor Jiro's sacrifice and protect the helpless, merge with both Model X and Z, becoming Mega Man Model ZX. They destroy the Serpent forces and return to Guardian HQ. Dedicated from stopping Serpent's plan to awaken Model W, the Guardians and two Mega Men run around Zinkville to gather the other biometals so they can gather the passwords that lock Model W. After gathering the 6 biometals and destroying the various Serpent Mavericks housing them, Vent and Ale set off to destroy Model W and stop Serpent once and for all from sacrificing people to Model W. They're led to Serpent Inc.'s headquarters, and there they face off against Serpent as the Model W Mega Man. The two destroy Serpent using the power of the 6 biometals they've collected. The building starts to collapse as Serpent laments about standing in the way of progress. Vent and Ale rush out of the building and are stopped by the cyber elf of Jiro, who reassures them that what they're doing is nothing like Serpent and that they've got the chance to fight for what's right in the world. Vent and Ale escape the building and are joined by the Guardians as they celebrate their victory against the threat of Model W. Victory is short-lived, however, as behind the scenes, the cogs of destiny start turning once again. Over the next 4 years, Vent and Ale together with the Guardians travel around the world to destroy remaining Model Ws. However, at some point in time, Models H, P, F, and L are stolen from the Guardian laboratories. Attempting to fully stop the game of destiny, they're forced to fight against the other Mega Men who now hold the models that were stolen. Throughout all of this, however, Vent and Ale's dedication to protecting everyone using their power never wavers. 4 years later, the two new Chosen Ones, a Reploid called Gray and a human called Ash, are awoken to the power of the Biometal and become Mega Man Model A. With the ability to take the DNA of people they fought, the two Mega Men are forced to take on Albert's final push in his game of destiny, and are joined by Vent and Ale and the Guardians as they fight to protect the world from Albert's ambitions. The four Mega Men work together to stop Albert and his Mavericks from activating the Model Ws. However, they're too late, and the various Model Ws merge together to create the ultimate Biometal, Ouroboros. Vent and Ale take on the other four Mega Men while Ash and Gray charge ahead towards Albert. The Mega Men arrive at Albert's throne room and are revealed to be the direct descendants of Albert himself. Gray, a robot made as a spare Ultimate Mega Man, and Ash, as a distant offspring of Albert's original bloodline before he became a Trinity Sage, the two take down Albert and watch as Albert explodes. Planning to take the entire fortress with him, Ash and Gray are unable to move as the room starts breaking around them. Vent and Ale are told by Model X that they need to help Gray and Ash. Model Z unmerges from them and tells them he'll hold back the four Mega Men. Vent and Ale tell Model Z to stay safe, and Model Z forces the corrupted Mega Men to kneel down, seemingly disappearing in the explosions alongside the other four Chosen Ones. Ash and Gray wake up at the Hunter camp, having been saved by Vent and Ale. The four say their thanks and goodbyes to each other, going their separate ways. Ouroboros is destroyed and no sign of Model W left. The game of destiny seems to finally be over. However, Thomas of the Sage Trilogy then reveals that he agreed with Albert's ideals. The four corrupted Mega Men teleport into the building, shocking Mikhail, and it's revealed that Thomas still has a plan to reset the world using the power of Biometal. So that's another cliffhanger for you. Mega Man ZXZ was cancelled as of 2022, and no new info about a potential Mega Man ZX3 has ever been teased. But, you know, never say never. I will stan the Mega Man ZX series until I die, and I won't die until I get my Mega Man ZX3. But as of right now, we have no idea how the ZX series properly ends. We do know, however, what happens millennia later. Unlike the events between Classic, X, Zero, and ZX, the events between ZX and Legends are largely unknown. At some point in 20XXX, the space station Elysium is created, where humans would live without sickness or aging. However, 99% of the humans die from an unknown cause, and the last remaining human, the Master, is left alone and spends 3,000 years on Elysium alongside the various robots that work on the station. The Master befriends one of the robots, Mega Man Trigger, and after years together, asks Trigger to take him down to Earth. The Master can't live long outside of Elysium, and soon after dies, asking Trigger to destroy the Master System that controlled the Elysium, giving him his genetic code as a good luck charm. The Master System was set up in place to protect the Master, and in case of his and the other humans' death, would serve the Carbon Reinitialization Program, which was meant to kill all the false humans called Carbons on Earth and clone and bring back the original humans from Elysium. The mother unit, Sarah, was in charge of serving the system and the Master, and in case of their death, would start the Carbon Reinitialization Program. Another mother unit, Yuna, who was in charge of the systems on Earth, would take on a neutral stance against Trigger's mission to destroy the system, understanding what he was doing. Trigger did as his friend asked and created the robot Data to house his important memories and the genetic code of the Master so they couldn't be scanned or tampered with. Trigger would fight with the other robots in Elysium, eventually fighting Sarah on Earth. Both robots would expend all their energy in the fight. Trigger's body was almost fully destroyed, Yuna using the opportunity to put the two in stasis. Sarah was locked in the Forbidden Islands, while Trigger was reset and sealed on the Nino Islands along with Data. At some unknown point, the world is flooded and most of the population exists on small islands, and another energy crisis breaks out among the population. Using the ancient ruins beneath the island, explorers called Diggers, along with their partners called Spotters, dig for giant crystals of energy called Refractors. A legend among Diggers is that hidden deep in the earth somewhere is the Mother Lode, an unending source of power. Catalog's Island is discovered 100 years before the events of Legends, housing high-quality refractors in underground ruins. A series of incidents, however, leads the ruins to be sealed off. A local legend on Catalog's Island talks of a mysterious presence deep beneath the island that awakens every 100 years and wipes out all life on the island. Banner and Matilda Casket travel to the Forbidden Island and promptly disappear in the snowstorm of the island. Matilda is gravely wounded, and Yuna, who's been watching over Sarah on the Forbidden Island, tries to save Matilda using her nanomachines. Yuna is forced to use too much of her own body to save Matilda, and is forced to temporarily borrow Matilda's body until her own is restored. Banner is found injured and suffering from memory loss near the city of Yoyonsk. He is given the name Joe, and feeling like he had lost something important on the Forbidden Island, he uses the dropship blueprints that he had and starts building a new one. With the disappearance of Banner and Matilda, Matilda's father, Barrel Casket, races her daughter, Roll Casket. Barrel would find Trigger and Data inside the Nina ruins. Having entered the ruins without permission, Barrel is unable to tell where he found Trigger. He decides to raise Trigger alongside his granddaughter, giving him the name Rock Volnut. And that's essentially what happens between the 25th century and how many years have passed by that point of Legends. World's flooded, and even with that, the population can't catch a fucking break due to robots deciding they know what's best. However, Legends compared to the previous 3 spin-off series is much more lighthearted, focusing on a robot boy, his funny monkey, and his stepsister. Oh, and a family of pirates and their lovable yellow robot servants that I forgot to mention because this video is long enough already. Rock, Volnut, and the Casket family are diggers in search of the Motherlode, a treasure of unlimited energy hidden somewhere in the world. While on the airship, the Flutter, the ship experiences engine trouble, and their group crashes on Cadillac's Island, a small island in the middle of the ocean with the city on top of ancient ruins sealed off by the inhabitants. Rock is forced to undergo a citizen test to access the city on the island and start repairing the Flutter. On the island, Rock and Roll meet the Bond family, a family of pirates who are also looking for the Motherlode, with a more direct approach by attempting to destroy the city. Rock, Roll, and Data traverse the island in search of parts to fix the Flutter, and eventually find out about the island's dark secret. In digging through the various ruins on the island, Rock finds out about the main gate. Inside of the gate is Mega Man Juno, a robot from the space station Elysium. Juno plans to kill all the humans living on Cadillac's Island and restore Rock's memory of his time on Elysium, revealing to Rock that his true name is Mega Man Trigger. Rock is saved by the Bond family, who help Rock prepare for the final confrontation with Juno. Juno is destroyed by Rock, who uploads his data to the space station Eden to continue with his plans of destroying the island's population. Data, however, gives a new set of commands. Juno's data is deleted and Eden is sent back to its original coordinates. Data reveals to Rock that he houses Rock's original memories and promises him that he'll return them to him when the time is right. Rock and the Caskets are considered heroes by the people of Cadillac's Island, and they fly off toward their next adventure in the newly repaired Flutter. The Bond family, however, hot in their tail from below in a boat made from spare parts. A year later, Rock and Roll watch a press conference on TV featuring their grandfather Barrel and his old friend Werner. Werner claims to have created a ship, the Sulphur Bottom, that is capable of landing on the Forbidden Island, an island that is rumored to have the Motherlode and is covered by a thick snowstorm. Various attempts have been made by people over the years, including Barrel and Werner themselves 30 years prior. Each attempt to land on the island is met with the same fate. They see a mysterious woman and lose consciousness and wake up on another island. Yuna, disguised as a reporter, tries to warn Werner not to land on the Forbidden Islands and that the Motherlode doesn't exist. Werner ignores this and tries to land on the island nonetheless, and Yuna's companion Gats fires a warning shot but accidentally damages the ship and it starts crashing. Rock and Roll go off on an adventure to make a ship that will allow them to enter the Forbidden Islands. They meet up with Joe, who, unbeknownst to Roll, is her father with amnesia. He lets Rock and Roll use his dropship to access the Forbidden Island. Rock, on the Forbidden Island, accidentally frees Sarah and her companion Jeets. Having no recollection of his past with the Mother Unit, Sarah uses the legend of the Motherlode as an excuse to find the 4 keys necessary for the library on Elysium. Rock is tasked with finding the 4 keys which will unlock access to ancient technology that will be able to produce any amount of refractor crystals. Rock and Roll find the 4 keys and before long are attacked by Sarah and Jeets on the Sulphur Bottom. Rock is damaged while fighting off Jeets, and Sarah steals the 4 keys and returns to Elysium to open up the library and commence the carbon reinitialization program. Rock eventually learns of the Master and his relationship with the last remaining human. Learning of what happened between him and the Mother Unit Sarah and the direct aftermath of their battle, he's also told about what happened to Roll's parents, and how the Mother Unit, Yuna, tried to save Roll's mother Matilda, but ended up using too much of her own body and had to use Matilda's body until her own was repaired. Yuna brings Rock to Elysium to stop Sarah from killing all the humans on Earth. Sarah explains to Rock that she felt jealous of Rock and the Master's relationship, and that no matter how hard she tried, she seemed to make the Master upset. Rock and Sarah fight. Rock eventually wins and Sarah's body is destroyed. Upon her destruction, Sarah admits that thanks to Rock, she finally understands what the Master and Rock wanted by destroying the Master System. Yuna convinces Sarah to transfer herself to Yuna's original body, telling her that with Elysium no longer functioning, the old system would start awakening and the Master's sacrifice would have been for nothing. Yuna, Sarah, and Rock now stand stranded on Elysium with no way back to Earth. They patiently wait for Roll and Trombone to come and rescue them. And that's the timeline of Mega Man. Well, the classic timeline anyway. There's the Battle Network timeline that's separate, which is its own can of worms. Now you might be wondering why I spent about 50 minutes now talking about the Mega Man timeline, gleefully glossing over various games and things, and honestly, I don't know. I just love Mega Man. I like that the franchise can have so many different spin-offs that all tackle different things. And while the classic franchise is lighthearted and cute, I can also have a more deep story in X in the Zero series. I can live out my fantasies of being a Kamen Rider in ZX, and honestly, Legends is a tier of its own that I wish got a sequel already. Like, really. How come nobody's made a game like Legends? Like, sure, Red Ash was a thing, but I mean, nothing really quite scratches that same itch as Legends, which really just goes to show how special Legends was. And the same goes for everything Mega Man related. Nothing quite reaches the same peaks and style as each Mega Man series, and even when a series veteran tries to make a spiritual successor, we all saw what happened with that one, which might have been the worst $80 I've ever spent. And while I love the Gunvolt series by Zero and ZX developer Inti Creates, which by all accounts are just spiritual successors to those games, they don't really scratch that same itch, you know? I don't know, maybe I'm just some weirdo too obsessed with platforming mascots from the 90s, and honestly, saying that out loud makes it sound even more true. Either way, Mega Man's great. I glossed over so much stuff in this recap, and if you watch this entire video and thought to yourself, man, that sounds kind of fun, I'd want to play that, then please do. You can get the entire classic X, Zero, and ZX series on Steam, and hopefully sometime soon we can get the Legends, Battle Network, and Star Force games on there as well. Of course, I'd never suggest you torrent old games, but if a publisher or developer refuses to re-release games that aren't easily accessible anymore, and you don't feel like buying an entirely new console plus game that can potentially run up pretty high prices, well, you're not left with a lot of options now, are you? Anyway, thanks for watching me ramble on about Mega Man for like a while. I'm going back to writing down ideas for a ZX-inspired game where you transform into a karate bug man with compound eyes and you gain new forms per boss. I'm thinking of calling it Masked Driver. Nah, that's fucking lame. Hey, thanks for watching this video. I had a lot of fun working on it. Big shout out to the Mega Man knowledge base for their quick and easy access to the game's scripts and bigger plot details. Without them, this video would have just been 40 minutes of me going why I fucking love Mega Man ZX. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, share all the good stuff, you know the drill, hit the bell, whatever, you know, I keep saying this, but, you know, seriously though, if you could subscribe, that would mean the world to me. I'm trying to get a big ass flat screen. I think I said that last video. Anyway,